Instead, he simply asks Ray if the thought of leaving the 50th sector has ever crossed his mind. He even offers to help find him a car if he plans to leave this place. Ray, however, simply declines the proposition as he has kids to take care of. But Niles assures him that he is already planning to open an orphanage here, so Ray can leave the kids in his capable hands. He promises to give a better life and make sure they are not dying in the streets. Meanwhile, Ray can't figure out if this guy is bluffing or telling the truth, especially since his vessel color doesn't change at all. Though Ray is not doubting Niles, especially since this guy has always kept his word. Ray then warns Niles about Hector's group, because those guys seem to be preparing to start a war. Ray knows this for a fact because he had seen them receive truckloads of weapons. But it looks like Niles knew about this already. Not to mention, the fact that he just killed one of their guys is a definite declaration of war. Ray reminds him that the people in the stores will suffer if he loses the war. Suddenly, Niles' driver calls him out, reminding him that they should be leaving now. With that, as Niles makes his way inside the car, he reveals to Ray that it's going to be a war zone here, so Ray better find another hideout if he can. Before leaving, he throws this little potion bottle to our boy and tells him to heal his injured ear with this. With that, he leaves the place in his car. We then get back to 17th Street near Central Square, where we meet one of the kids from the Underpass Children's Group. The kid gets excited to see Ray finally back, but his happiness quickly morphs into worries when he notices Ray injured. But Ray quickly tries to assure the sobbing kid that he just fell, nothing else. While the poor kid wipes his tears off while feeling relieved and happy that he was not into fights, Ray notices this whirlwind of emotions inside this kid. To think that a single person can feel so many emotions at once is something that never fails to fascinate him. He then hands over all of the canned food to the kids and tells her to head to the tent first and also inform Pale that he will be back soon. By the way, this kid's name is Josephine. While the kid walks his own path, Ray turns to the old woman, Viola, and asks her if she told Josephine anything. Apparently, this old woman is blind, which explains why she didn't react when Ray appeared in the scene. She is a storyteller. She responds to Ray's question by answering that she was just telling her about the rainbows. Ray gently cautions the old woman to perhaps not always tell the kids these fantastical stories, because he doesn't want them to develop feelings of inadequacy, and it could make them less content with the streets they are currently living in. But Viola believes that children should be encouraged to imagine and dream beyond their immediate surroundings. Ray takes note of the color of her vessel, and it appears to be purple. But he is not sure what feeling this purple color might represent, because he has never seen this color in anyone else besides Viola. Ray then warns her about the impending conflict that is looming on the horizon, and advises her to consider moving to another street before things escalate. After this little exchange, our boy walks away, while Viola can't help but to notice how considerate Ray is for a child. The next morning, our boy runs some errands as a delivery boy. When the shop owner opens the gate, he is surprised to see Ray in front of him, since he was expecting Ron to show up with deliveries. While my guy pretends not to know, deep down in his mind, he can't help but to think how that unfortunate fatty got both his legs broken, so he is essentially a helpless person. Ray then politely inquires the shopkeeper if he is not planning to evacuate, as there won't be any customers if a conflict arises. But the shop owner claims that he has nothing other than this store, and as for the war, he is quite certain that it's not going to happen. Hearing this, Ray gets intrigued and inquires about the reasoning, to which the shop owner explains that Hector's group and Niles are currently in discussion, so if things are resolved peacefully, there won't be a conflict. Right at that moment, the gate of the room where the meeting was going on opens up, and we see a group of men from Hector's group. The man with scars all over his face is actually the leader of 18th Street, whose name is Hector, the leader of the Hector's group. My guy quickly pulls his hoodie over his face. Hector, on the other hand, is intrigued by the fact that a child is working in this place while all the adults have fled. He then places his hand over Ray's neck as a gesture of appreciation for the hard work Ray is putting in. He then further gives the little one some coins and tells him to treat himself well. With that, they proceed to leave. But it is then that the bald man Humphrey notices Ray's injured ears, so he quickly turns towards our boy. It doesn't take long for Ray to sense the shift in the atmosphere, so he quickly hides his ear because he knows he has been recognized. But before the bald man can react, his boss calls out to him, telling him to stop standing there idly. Eventually, they all leave the place in their nice car. Meanwhile, Ray knows that Humphrey had recognized the wound on his ear, but he is not sure why that man left without saying anything. Ray and that shop owner then hurry to Niles to inquire about the outcome of the negotiations. And sadly enough, the only thing Niles has to say is that the negotiations failed. So the conflict is inevitable. The shop owner is dismayed to hear this news. Niles then elaborates that the terms Hector was demanding were simply unreasonable. He basically wanted Niles's entire organization to submit to his control, which is even worse than engaging in a conflict with those men. He then apologizes to both the shop owner and Ray and advises them to remain cautious and stay in the hideout. After leaving the shop, Ray walks alone through the streets. As he does, he reflects how difficult it would be to navigate the streets if the conflict were to break out. In order to prepare for the impending crisis, he decides to gather as much food as possible beforehand. Suddenly, he notices Humphrey in the car, which Ray finds very suspicious because he had never seen a car like his in Sector 50, so he decides to investigate. Later, we find ourselves at the entrance to Hector's group on 18th Street. The big boss himself, Hector, is acting as nothing more than a subordinate in the presence of this man who emerges from the car. The man's presence is commanding, and it's still unknown who this figure actually is. The monocle over his left eye only makes him even more stand out. Even Ray doesn't seem to recognize this man. He then takes note of this man's vessel's color, which is dark blue, and calling it black wouldn't be incorrect either. That color resembles the mana of golems when they move. Also, he is curious about the rings around this man's vessel. Not only that, there is a significant amount of mana surrounding the rings as well, and it's as if he is using those rings to contain the mana from escaping. He is certain that that man is dangerous, and he needs to inform Niels about it. The scene transitions to 17th Street, Niels' group, where we can see that Niels' men are also preparing for the impending battle. Ray also arrives there and startles this guard by appearing out of the blue, because he is unsure how Ray even got inside the base. To which Ray states that the gate was open. He then inquires about the whereabouts of Niels, to which the man explains that his boss went out to prepare for the war, and it's dangerous, so Ray should also be leaving as well. Since Niels is not here, Ray decides to simply convey his message through this guard, but he is unsure how to explain to this guard that those guys have a magic user in their ranks. So, he simply tells the guard to relay the message to Niels that he should be wary of the man with a monocle. Later, Ray returns to the kids in the tent, but Ray sits outside accompanied by Pale. Pale questions him about his opinion regarding who is going to emerge victorious in this conflict. Well, Ray is uncertain about which side to support, especially since both groups seem to be evenly matched. Personally, Ray is rooting for Niels, because he believes it's the only way the safety of the children can be assured. If Hector wins this war, the street children will be sold into slavery. Suddenly, they hear a terrifying noise, which puts Ray on high alert. The scene then quickly shifts to 17th Street, where Niels' soldiers are trying their best to fight off against these golems, but all of that barrage of bullets has no effect on these creatures. In retaliation, the creature unleashes a massive amount of dark blue magical energy that decimates everything in its path. And as if that is not enough, the golem dispatches those men with his bare hands like they were mere tomatoes. The one manipulating those golems is, of course, this monocle-wearing bastard. He is feeling very pleased with his creations, and further commands them to eliminate everything here. We then transition back under the bridge where the kids live. While Ray is planning to join the fray, Pale quickly grabs him by the hand and stops him from going. As they are arguing about who should go and assess the situation, their skirmish ends up waking Josephine up. But Pale quickly tells her that they will be back soon enough, so she should go back inside the tent and have some sleep. Finally, Pale concedes to our boy's insistence. He decides to stay with the children here, while he gives Ray the green light to venture further. He also tells him not to go too far and to return as soon as he figures out what is happening. After promising to return as soon as possible, Ray finally reaches the scene, and everything is in a state of chaos. The aftermath of the battle is brutal. Everything is engulfed in flames, and the soldiers are scattered around with missing limbs. The one red-haired soldier we had seen before still seems to be alive. He reveals to our boy that those bastards had brought golems with them, and the man with the monocle was controlling them. He then warns our boy to flee before his life is extinguished. He dies on the spot, as he is also torn apart into two equal pieces. It breaks Ray's heart to witness this unnecessary bloodshed. He closes the poor soldier's eyes, grabs the dagger from the ground, and decides to proceed. He is certain that the way things are going, Niels is bound to lose, so he wants to assist him in any way he can. While Ray is occupied, we shift back to the bridge at the same time, where all the children live. Well, it appears that not even the children were spared. They have been brutally slaughtered, and only Pale remains, holding Josephine in his arms. The one behind all this bloodshed is one of the golems we had seen before. The soulless bastard begins to coalesce this dark blue energy in the palm of his hand to unleash it upon Pale, while Pale, on the other hand, sheds his last remaining tears as he wishes for Ray not to return. The 17th Street of Central Plaza had just gone up in flames. The man had arrived exclusively late to the horrific scene. All he could see were the corpses of Niles' underlings, but strangely, his own corpse was nowhere to be found, indicating that he was still alive. A loud rumbling took his attention from behind. Ray turned around quickly, realizing the direction it came from. Understanding that, he ran towards the tent. When he got here, panting and exhausted from all the running, it was yet another dreadful sight. He witnessed the remains of someone right up ahead of the golem monster. Filled with rage, Ray moved to attack this monster with his flaming sword. But the monster quickly turned back with its sharp senses and executed a heavy gut punch against the boy's stomach. Bro came at him with a full Mike Tyson swing. Anyway, Ray felt immense pain as he crashed into a wall. On the brink of defeat, he doesn't want to give up and hopes to assure his loved ones are all safe. It was at this moment that a voice called out in his mind. He relived the memories of the children, the people who adored him every time he came back. It empowered him for a moment, before those mellow memories became a terrifying nightmare. All of those children had been brutally murdered. Lorraine, Leia, Corden, Miles, Josephine, and Pale were all gone. Ray pitifully denied the reality, reaching out for them. He can't accept the loss of their lives without having to repay them for their kindness. But it matters very little since the silver-haired boy is about to meet his own end here. He hears a familiar sound, the same sound that he heard during a fight. This was the bastard golem who became responsible for ending their lives. And now, it is preparing a blast to end Ray too. These helpless children as well as Niles's men, and even the people in the street. The bloodbath that followed was all because of this monster. Ray took it upon himself to exact revenge no matter the cost. He uses every fiber of his being, every last bit of his energy, pooling it together until he has enough to stand. But Ray's body didn't obey until a powerful car was chucked at the golem from out of nowhere, sending it crashing away. From inside the vehicle comes out Niles, who rescues Ray. Thankfully, the kid hasn't received any major injuries, but the boy is dreadful and discouraged to share the news of the deceased children. Niles horrifically turns and realizes what went down. He apologizes to the child for being too late to the scene. Ray doesn't want to accept it as his fault. Niles, realizing that the boy is deeply grieving and blaming himself for their lives, hugs him for comfort.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more amazing manhwa recaps. And stay tuned for next episode.